Hi there. Welcome back to another quick and easy watercolor painting. I'm Rod Bergeron, and today we're going to make something that's a little bit wintry. I've wet the top 2/3 of the page there. I'm working on a 140-pound piece of watercolor paper. And this is a 3/4 inch brush. And I'm going to pick up some Payne's gray, and we're just going to swoop it across there like that. We're trying to get a nice sort of wintry sky. And I'm going to put a little bit of Payne's gray across the front here, just like that. And we're trying to create a little bit of a sort of a water's edge. This is going to be the edge up here of the far shoreline. Okay, so we're going to take some Payne's gray here. I'm going to make this a little bit more intense. I'm just going to tap my brush across this far shoreline like this. And we're going to let that all bleed up into the sky, and this is going to become our shore, like I said, on the far side. I'm going to put a little bit of more intense Payne's gray across here also, but just about like that. Not a whole lot, just a few taps. And I want you to understand also that I just picked up some Payne's gray right off the palette. I'm tapping my brush onto the page. There's very few brush strokes. There was brush strokes across the top here for the sky, and then this brush stroke, but the rest of them are all taps. So I'm tapping my brush onto the page. I'm going to rinse that brush out really well, and I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre. So this would be considered dry because I'm picking it up right off the palette. And I'm going to pick up, so I got very little water on my brush, but I'm trying to pick up the pigment very intensely. And I'm going to touch this in a few places across here. Not too many, just a few places. And I'm going to pick it up a little bit more intensely. So I'm not adding any more water to the system. I'm just adding pigment. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit there too. Again, I'm just tapping the brush onto the page. Okay, tap, tap, tap. I'm going to pick up this, which is my #1 round watercolor brush. And you can see I've sharpened one end of it here. So that was just sharpened with a utility knife. And I'm just going to scribe through a few of these, like that. We're just going to let that all bleed to wherever it is it's going to bleed to. Don't try to influence it too much. I'm going to rinse this brush out really well. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of this Payne's gray, and I'm just going to put it across the bottom here. Just tapping it onto the page, getting it to run a little bit, or getting it to move a little bit, I should say. I'm going to add a little bit more Payne's gray to this, slightly different amount of pigment, and we're just going to let that sit now. We're not going to do any more to it. This has to completely dry before we move on to the next step. Okay, so just let it completely air dry. Don't try to rush it. It takes as long as it takes to dry. All right, so that took a while to dry, but we're gonna add a few trees on here now, and I'm just gonna do that with a Sharpie pen, and I'm gonna kind of double up these lines a little bit, and I'll put some over here and maybe a couple here. Okay, so that's all we're gonna do with the Sharpie pen, and I have here a #1 watercolor brush, and I'm gonna pick up some Payne's gray, very thinly washed, and I'm just gonna go from one side of the tree up to the top, and this is a really super thin wash. So the first time through, you should just be thinking about putting in a few dots, going from the bottom to the top. And I'll speed this footage up so you don't have to watch me do this whole thing. But when we use just Payne's gray and one or two other colors, we can create a very cool, cold sort of a atmosphere, and that's what it is I'm going for here in this particular painting. Okay, so I'm going to dry this all up. These ones here maybe aren't quite too dark, but I'm going to dry this all just with my hair dryer. And then I'm going to put another layer on it. It really shouldn't take you any more time than that just to put a few, very few seconds to get something to dry up with that thin of a wash. So, and now I'm just going to put on another layer. And this one's going to be slightly heavier, slightly darker, a little bit more pigment in it. And I'm just going to go over it again, and I'm looking for areas that didn't have the dots in it the first time. And normally I'm going to start on the bottom. I'm going to start on the bottom and work my way up the tree. Just put in a few tiny little dots near the top. So this is in Northern Ontario. We have a lot of spruce trees and a lot of different variations of pine trees, and they're very sort of spindly and long like that. So again, now I'm just looking for places to put in more dots, and I'm just going to keep building up layers here. Okay, I'm going to dry that again. Now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to touch it to my Payne's gray, and I'm going to make this wash slightly more intense than the previous ones that I've put on those trees. And this is all really dry now, so I'm just going to put in a few small dots like that. So every time you go by this, it should be sort of fewer and fewer marks. Okay, and then just up here again, pick up a little bit more pigment. Make those slightly wider there. Like that. That's turned out not too bad. Put a little bit down here maybe. You could even put a little bit of like a rocky kind of an edge across there, if you so choose to. I think the little bit of white that we've left in these couple of places, you know, so this little skip of white along here and this little bit of white along here, even a little bit of white in the background. Look at these this tree line in the background there. That's great. And this sort of shoreline across here, it looks exactly like Northern Ontario. I'm really quite happy with it. And when we put our little mat on there, you can see that's pretty nice. Yeah, that turned out pretty well. I'd love to know what you think of it. Let me know what you think of this tree line in the background back here too. I'd also love to know where you're from. If you could drop me a comment in the comment section, let me know where you're from. I'd really appreciate it. And if you got something that you'd like me to see, I'd love to see everybody's work, but if you got something that you'd like me to see, please send me an email. Here's my email address. Thanks a lot for watching today. And as always, if you're currently a subscriber, I thank you very much. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching today. We'll see you again real soon.